Hey guys, thanks for joining us on another episode of High Vibes and Agape Love Book Club. I'm your host, Alex. If you're new here, welcome. If you are returning, welcome back. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join our book club for more reviews like this. I'm super excited to be bringing you your next great listen, and that's going to be Set Boundaries, Find Peace, A Guide to Reclaiming Yourself by Nedra Glover Tawwab. She discussed 6 types of boundaries: physical, emotional, sexual, intellectual, material, and time. I also thought it was interesting to hear about macro and micro boundaries that are violated. And another thing is something called the ACE survey, which is basically like your childhood trauma. And if you take this survey, that you could possibly suffer from relationship problems, physical health issues, mental health issues like depression and anxiety. And lastly, she talks about attachment styles and how that affects your boundaries. Was the topic adequately covered? 1000%. Obviously, she talks about boundaries, but then she also touches on parenting, financials, self-care, time management, childhood traumas. Like, you get so much from this book. I think that this is like a therapy in a book, multiple therapy sessions in one book. How did this book change you, like education, attitude, or perspective-wise? This book taught me a lot about myself and why I am so passive-aggressive, and how damaging that could be. It also gave me the confidence to set boundaries despite having a lot of anxiety about what could happen in that relationship, or like the outcome of what could happen if I set these boundaries in a certain relationship. Would you read another book by this author? Absolutely. So I actually just noticed earlier today that she has a book that goes with this one. It's called Set Boundaries, Find Peace, the workbook. And so I'm going to get it. It pretty much says that it is for to practice setting and maintaining boundaries. And I know in the beginning she talks about how it's a trigger warning and how you should take breaks if you need to take breaks. So I think it's probably going to be really intense, and I really want to do it. It's probably going to really help with the shadow work. But another one that she has is called Drama Free, which is a guide to managing unhealthy family relationships. And I'm almost ready to skip all the rest of the books on my recommendation list, so that I can listen to this one. But I'm not going to do that. But just know to look forward to me doing the review on the Drama Free book as well. Yes, so this has been my take on Set Boundaries, Find Peace. If it's not obvious, I completely recommend that you go listen to this book. If you don't believe in therapy, I would say still listen to this book. If you are in therapy, I would say you should still listen to this book in tandem with your therapy. If you don't have time for therapy, or you can't afford therapy, or you just want to see what therapy is like, I would definitely suggest you read this book, okay? Now, when I tell you how refreshing it is to see an African American woman who looks like me, with an afro like mine, who is so successful in the field that I'm going into, which is social work, it just makes me so happy. So Miss Nedra Tawwab has a master's in social work. Miss Nedra Tawwab is a New York Times best-selling author, a licensed therapist, and a sought-after relationship expert. She has practiced relationship therapy for 15 years and is the founder and owner of the group therapy practice Kaleidoscope Counseling. She helps people create healthy relationships by teaching them how to implement boundaries. Miss Nedra has appeared as an expert on Red Table Talk, The Breakfast Club, Good Morning America, and CBS Morning Show, to name a few. Now, if you want to follow her on Instagram, which I suggest you do, you can find her at Nedra Tawwab, Tawwaab. Now, I know some of you are already thrown off, I don't need to read this book. I don't need to read this book. I don't have problems setting boundaries. Well, let me tell you some other reasons that you may need to read this book. If you have or had a parent dealing with addiction, if you are raising and or have raised your siblings, if you feel ultimately that you're better off alone, if you live from paycheck to paycheck, if you find yourself questioning yourself or constantly seeking validation, asking for other people's opinion, if you are co-parenting with a narcissist, if you have an overbearing parent-in-law or overbearing parent, if you're in a relationship and you find that recently you guys have just been constantly arguing, or you feel like you're not on the same page, or, where you don't know where the relationship is going. If you have a one-sided friendship where you feel like every time this person calls, you're like, oh my goodness, and you kind of dread talking to them and it's kind of draining. Every time they call you, you're there for them. And another one is if you feel like your partner is addicted to technology, like if they're constantly online, social media, video games, and TV. If you feel like their phone or computer is an escape or a distraction, or they use it excessively. And if you feel like you have trouble saying no to a parent, or anybody for that matter, but if you have trouble saying no to them, even when you know it's inconvenient for you, right? So this book is broken up into two parts. The first part is the importance of setting boundaries, and the second part is how you do the work. And doing the work is broken down into family, relationships, friendships, work, and social media or technology. So if you want to skip through the chapters, if you feel like certain chapters apply to you more than others, then that's fine. But I feel like you should read the whole book. Just my opinion. Now, let's get into the questions. What do you think about the narrator? I love that she's narrating her own book. As always, she knows exactly where to emphasize. Moreover, though, her narration gives me a sense of comfort. I feel like I'm in good hands, and she exudes a confidence, but also I can still detect the empathy. So yeah, she's been through this too kind of type of feeling. So it's much more like you're actually talking to her than it's her reading to you, rather than her reading the book to you. What's my biggest takeaway? I have listened to this audiobook at least 3 times, and every time I pick this book up, I'm thinking, man, I have not been setting my boundaries. I need a refresher. And every time I read this book or listen to this book, I come out thinking, wow, I am not respecting the boundaries of some of the people that are closest to me. And she says something along the lines of if you have trouble setting boundaries, it's possible that you have trouble respecting some people's boundaries as well, which I noticed that was me. So gotta work on both. Thanks again for joining us on another episode of High Vibes and Agape Love Book Club. Please feel free to answer and ask questions down below, and suggest books that you'd like us to review. Until next time, I'm your host, Alex. Bye.